A stark fault line has fractured Western support for Ukraine. While President Trump pushes a sweeping multi-billion-dollar arms deal, key European powerhouses are reportedly opting out, sparking deep division over who pays for the escalating price of Kyiv's survival. Here's more.
Missiles roar across battlefields where Ukraine fights for survival. But behind the scenes, the fight for support grows just as fierce. President Donald Trump unveiled an ambitious plan for European nations to purchase billions of dollars in US-made weaponry, including vital Patriot missile systems, and funnel them directly to Ukraine.
Anything for it, but we will send it. It'll be business for us, and we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin really surprised a lot of people.
However, the ink barely dried on the announcement before cracks began to appear, threatening to undermine the very solidarity Ukraine desperately needs. France and Italy are reportedly pulling out of the NATO-financed plan to buy US advanced weaponry for Ukraine. Paris, facing its own significant budget constraints, argues that diverting funds to US manufacturers would stifle its domestic arms sector and delay the continent's independent military buildup. European Union has publicly challenged Trump by bluntly insisting that the US must share the burden of arming Ukraine.
Call is that everybody would do the same. It's if you promise to give the weapons but say that somebody else is going to pay for it, it's not really given by you, is it?
There is also confusion over which nation would be sending the much-needed Patriot systems to Ukraine and when.
We must not have any illusions. A Patriot system that we now say should go to Ukraine will take months before it can be delivered. So we are now talking about days, perhaps weeks, until a decision is made. But then it will happen very quickly.
This simmering transatlantic tug-of-war over financial responsibility threatens to slow down the very weapons deliveries Ukraine so desperately needs, potentially prolonging the agony on the front lines. As Russia continues its brutal offensive, these internal Western divisions risk emboldening Moscow and deepening Ukraine's struggle.
Joining me live on the broadcast from Berlin is Dr. Volker Stanzel, former German ambassador to China and senior distinguished fellow at SWP, German Institute for International and Security Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, Mr. Ambassador. How and when will the weapons reach Ukraine? Will they, first of all? And can you explain the internal procurement process of NATO?
Well, on your first question, I think it's impossible for anyone to reply with a definite point in time. And that is because the situation is very complicated and confusing, as you have also said. But the most important aspect is, I think, that we can be sure the fact won't be changed, that Europe will provide the arms that Ukraine bitterly needs, mainly, of course, arms to deal with the missile and drone attacks that presently happen every night in Ukraine. Why is the situation so complicated? First, the American side. As we all know, the MAGA supporters of Donald Trump don't want to have anything to do with wars outside of the United States, and do not supporting Ukraine as President Biden did. So what President Trump does now is to tell his supporters, well, we're selling our arms, so we're making money with them. And that is something you won't oppose. Obviously, that works. It doesn't work as well for the Europeans because, as Ms. Callas said, you quoted her before, it's not the same thing if you tell someone, we will give you arms, and then you don't pay for them, but want somebody else to pay for them. So this makes the situation inside Europe pretty complicated. We have some countries that insist on having their own arms production, France among them. France, since the 1966, when de Gaulle withdrew from NATO, pursues a policy of strategic autonomy and to buy arms from America to give it then as a European country to Ukraine, of course, runs counter to that philosophy. The Italians have the same opinion, and so do the Czechs, and maybe some other countries that I don't know about. So these countries will also deliver arms, and France has said so, Italy has said so, but arms from their own supplies, not from American supplies. And the countries that are left presently, it's four. It's Germany, it's, I think, two Scandinavian countries and the UK. They will use American-made arms that they have presently in their stockpiles so that they can deliver them relatively quickly. Now, delivering arms is something that takes time. It will take time, as you have just heard from the German Minister of Defense. But as I said in the beginning, the basic point is that Ukraine finally will get the arms that it needs.
And can we go back to the funds? And as you mentioned, all of this is very confusing for someone that's watching afar. Will the Europeans pay individually, or will NATO create a separate mechanism for this multi-billion-dollar weapons purchase from the United States?
Well, that's a technical question, it seems to me. Will Mr. Rutte create a fund and gather the monies from the countries that want to pay, that are willing to pay to the Americans, or are countries such as Germany individually going to pay? As this whole structure has been negotiated by the German Minister of Defense over a pretty long time, I think that is a question they have already dealt with, but it has not come out into the open yet. I don't see it as a problematic question at all. It is a question how to technically deal with the question of how to do the payment to the United States. So this is not the problem. The problem is, as again the German Minister of Defense said, the speed with which arms need to be delivered, and this is a speed that presently cannot be guaranteed. It will take some time. The minister spoke of some days, maybe some weeks. This, I think, is a question we have to look at hardly.
And finally, President Trump's 50-day deadline to Vladimir Putin and the promise of weapons to Ukraine. What tangible changes can we expect on the battlefield and perhaps Putin's behavior?
Well, what we see so far is Putin reassuring his countrymen that Russia will continue the policy it is pursuing, which is the war, obviously, and is not afraid of anything that the Europeans or the Americans are going to do. So I think we have to expect attacks, nightly attacks on Kyiv and other cities and areas in Ukraine in the near future. I do not think Putin will want to give the impression that he's giving in to the American president, who has declared that he is disappointed with Putin. Putin will not want to be the weaker of the two here in the public, in the media, in the West. So I think first we will have to expect that the war is going on, which makes it so urgent, as I said before, that the arms Europe is going to deliver are delivered quickly.
Dr. Stansel, thank you so much for joining us on WION and for your thorough analysis. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.